What's the real cost to becoming exceptional? In today's episode, I have a deeply honest conversation with Renaissance Periodization co founder and CEO Nick Shaw to unpack the trade offs, identity shifts, sacrifices, and emotional realities that ambitious people rarely talk about openly. And this episode is much more than just fitness or business. It's about learning how to pursue greatness without losing yourself in the process. Now, I have the privilege of calling Nick a friend. He's also the co-founder and CEO of Renaissance Periodization, otherwise known as RP Strength, one of the most respected evidence-based fitness, nutrition, and performance education companies in the world. Alongside his dear friend and mentor, Dr. Mike Israetel, Nick helped build RP from a niche coaching company into a globally recognized brand, serving athletes, entrepreneurs, executives, and everyday high performers. Nick is also an IFBB professional bodybuilder, an elite level coach, an author, speaker, and entrepreneur. His background blends competitive bodybuilding, business leadership, coaching psychology, and operational discipline. His book, Fit for Success, which is linked below, explores how the traits, habits, systems, and principles required to build an elite physique mirror the same principles required to build both a successful life and company. I found so much value in this conversation. I know you absolutely will too. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Nick, you've operated at a very high level for a long time. What's the dark side of being so intensely driven that nobody warns ambitious people about?
Yeah. Oh man. So it kind of just becomes all consuming. Like if you're so there's a slippery slope, right? If you're you want to be a high performer, it's like, oh, it's all sunshine and rainbows. And listen, it can be, but you also have to pay the cost to like get there. And so it takes a while to get there, and you have to be willing to kind of go through that really high level period of suck and what do they call it? Like just eating shit for a while. I would say generally speaking, that's not a great part. And driven people tend to be consuming. Some folks might call it obsessive, but it depends on the level of success you want to get to. And so, if you just want to be like average or above average or something, like you can probably do it part time, and it's just like a whatever, it's a hobby or something fun that you do. And I get that. Listen, respect for people like that. I mean, there's stuff that I do obviously that I just do for fun. Like I don't need to be the best in the world at everything, but it really just depends on what trade offs you're willing to endure and like what sacrifices are you willing to give up for that. And so, like I remember early on, I said, well, okay, I think probably running a business makes more sense than like me competing in bodybuilding. So that was the trade off. I was like, I can still lift. And obviously, hypertrophy training, all that stuff, can still do all that, but maybe not at the high level extreme. And so there was a period, so I want to say competed, I think in like 2008 or 7. I don't know, man, it's a long time, almost 20 years ago. And then I took a while, and then I think I did another one in 2013. But then after that, I didn't compete again until 2022. It's like legitimately 9 years. And so you're asked, like, what's the dark side? Well, I'm not going to say it's a dark side. I voluntarily made that decision, and I think it was a pretty good decision. But it's all about trade-offs and choices. And so that was just a big one that was traded off.
Do you think you were aware of some of those trade-offs ahead of time, or did you have to learn in the moment?
Oh, no, this was a very conscious decision. I can tell you the exact calculus because it was no human being can do like 3 full-time jobs. And, running RP is, hey, it's clear this is a full-time job. Competing in bodybuilding is a full-time job. It's completely different than just, you've competed before in bodybuilding, you know the drill. So there's a difference between competing, right? And especially if you want to do well versus just lifting and training and, being in generally good shape. That's totally cool. But it takes that extreme to get there to the competitive level. So another full-time job. And then also, this is 2013, 2014. That was right around the time that my daughter was born. She's now 12, which seems crazy to say. Like I'm coaching her softball team and she's she's really tall. It's just like, it's crazy. But like that was another full-time thing, right? Like parenting and all is a full-time job. And so I'm like, I can't do three. I can do two, but I can't do three. So it was a very
Mm,
conscious choice of saying, what makes the most sense to give up? And in my head, the calculus was like, well, I'm seeing some early signs of like RP might be doing something, or like, hey, I can make a little bit of money to
yeah.
maybe kind of do my own thing. I'm like, it probably makes more sense to go in here. Obviously, the parenting thing is a no brainer. You're not going to give that up. And then, well, what's left? Well, it's like competing in bodybuilding. And I said, well, I don't know. I'm probably not going to be Mr. Olympia any day. And if we're just being honest here, would have been cool to try, but and then like it cost me a bunch of money. And you don't really win anything. And you might win a trophy, but it's not like again, it's unlikely that I was going to earn a significant income from competing in bodybuilding. So it was pretty easy choice, but it was very clear that like you can't do all three. And so what
Mm.
has to give? Well, to me, it was a pretty easy decision at that point.
Did you have a mentor or some form of a figure in your life to help you have that clarity? Or do you think you've always had that depth of self-awareness?
Um, well, at that point in my life, obviously as you grow and mature, you develop more self-awareness, or hope that you do. So I think I'm just fundamentally different person than I was back then in terms of that. Uh, this is gonna sound weird, but I always Mike was one of my mentors because he was older than
Yeah.
me. He kind of like taught me the ways and bodybuilding, how to eat, how to train, all that stuff. And yeah, he was someone that I leaned on where it's like, who was kind of always the person I could be the most open and honest with, like in my entire
Mm,
life. The answer is pretty clearly always Mike.
yeah.
So, it's weird because he's also my colleague, but yeah, to me, especially back then, maybe now we're on a little bit more like maybe he'll come to me for some stuff and, I'll come to him for some stuff. But yeah, back then I would definitely say he would have been a big one, and he would have told me the same thing. He's like, dude, like let's do this because him and we started our B together. So I mean, I hope he
Yeah.
would have been telling me, hey, you should probably lean more into here rather than the competitive part.
Would you say too, and I'll ask this question will make more sense in a moment. Was RP always your first love, your firstborn, if you will, until you actually had children?
RP was officially started. That's a really interesting one because around the time my son was born, January 2012, RP had
Okay.
started just a little bit before then. And at the
Mm,
time, it was really just me training people in person. So I don't even think
okay.
that's a fair characterization. It was clear that like fitness was a love of mine. And that
Mm-hmm.
goes back to, even in like high school, I was always into sports. That's why I went into like kinesiology at Michigan, is because I knew I wanted to do something like sports. I didn't quite know it would be fitness related at the time. I just knew sports, like something
Okay.
active. Originally, I actually wanted to be an athletic director. That's why I went to school at
Huh.
U of M for kinesiology and why I studied sports management. And then it wasn't until about my junior year, well, arguably I could say sophomore year, because that's when I met Mike, that's when
Okay.
I said, "You know what? Man, there's something about this lifting thing that I really like." Because I was always into it in high school,
Okay.
always training. I was called a gym rat.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was one of the best compliments of my life. And so around then is when I started to kind of change that direction a little bit, where I'm like, I don't know if I want to be the athletic director type. Like, I might want to
Yeah.
do something more in fitness. So like kind of yes and no, but it would have been impossible to say that back then because I had no idea what, RP might become. It was just we liked fitness, so that's what we did.
It's interesting. And I asked that question because obviously, like you mentioned, we mature and gain a lot of wisdom through trial, error, and years under our
Yeah.
belt. So for
Oh,
me,
yeah.
like, I remember when I was navigating my first marriage, like I would tell my wife that, she was number one, business was number two, but that was not true. So for me, like my business was always number one, but I lacked probably the balls, the courage, the vulnerability, and the ability to articulate that my business was my passion, my
Yeah.
firstborn, if you will, at that time. And it's just interesting to see, like, you've got these two kids who, gosh, any day now they're going to be adults, which is
Yeah.
crazy. And you've been able to sustain phenomenal growth and from my perspective, multiple iterations and evolutions of RP during the last 15 plus years.
Yeah. Well, I do kind of joke a little bit that I have 3 kids. Obviously, have my 2 kids, Zach and Emma, and then RP is, of course, like a 3rd kid because it's
Yeah.
become such a huge part of my identity and sort of what I do and what I have done for, like, 15 years. Because if you wanna think about it that way, so, all right, so I'm 38, I'll be 39 this year. If I've been doing RP since, call it 2011, But even then, you could argue maybe even 2 years before then when I was like training people. Well, if we say 2009, so we're talking 17 years. So that's,
Yeah.
not quite half, but we're talking about, 40%, something like that of my
Yeah.
lifetime. Um, it's a big deal, man. It's, technically, if it is 2009, it's older than both of my kids.
Wild. And you mentioned too, like I loved your answer with the first question I shared. This process of achieving and sustaining next level success can be all consuming.
Mm.
Have there been periods where you've lost yourself in this process?
Yeah. So if we want to use a fitness example, I mean, yeah, for a while, I would say because, even around maybe like COVID times,
Mm.
I kind of fell out of, hypertrophy training.
Hmm.
It was sort of like dabbling here and there. It's like maybe there's a little sense of like no clarity, no purpose when it comes to
Yep.
training.
Hmm.
I did jujitsu for a couple years. I used to help volunteer coach my son's classes, which were a lot of fun at the time. I
Yeah.
actually think you learn just as much teaching as you do the actual drilling because if you have to tell someone where you got to put your hands and feet and all that, well then you start doing it and you're like, oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. But yeah, it was just dabbling. I was dabbling a little bit of
Okay.
CrossFit. I was dabbling a little bit of jujitsu. I was still training like hypertrophy style, but maybe like 3, 4 times a week. And then there's kind of this, I would say 2021, maybe early 22. I was watching some folks around me. I was watching Mike. I was watching Jared. They were, really in like the bodybuilding hypertrophy space. And I said,
Yeah.
you know what, man? Like I kind of missed that.
Mm.
And I think I did a diet for like a photo shoot, I think in the spring of 2022. And that
Okay.
kind of reignited that fire a little bit. And I have to
Mm.
this is like 8 or 9 years after I had competed. So I'd really
Yeah.
given up the competitive aspirations. I was like, it's, not for me, whatever. I could just, maybe help run RP. But that kind of reignited that fire and it really got me back into a place where I was like, you know what? No, this is actually something that I want to do. And the reason I bring that up too, and it's super relevant here, is because like I couldn't have done that in past years because it was, RP answering all the emails, all the customer service stuff. Like I had to be so in the weeds doing it all. I just could not have competed. It would not have made sense. Like it was
Yeah.
impossible, more or less. But then, over time, you grow, you get some people in that help do things. You kind of have a little bit, less of like that. I have to do everything myself. Where you got a team, you can delegate some stuff. And I was like, well, it actually kind of makes sense because now we're leaning a little bit more into
Mm.
this hypertrophy thing. And so it's kind of this like beautiful timing of everything. And then I competed in the fall of 2022 and yeah, finally did well. It was like, "Oh, this is really cool." Yeah.
Is that when you got your pro card?
It's not, but so you gotta
Okay.
remember the first 2 times I competed, I never even placed, like, top 5. Like, I just got my
Okay.
kicked. And so it's really hard, when you don't do well. Like, what do you tell a kid if they, like, do a sport and they don't do well? You're like, "Well, keep trying, Sonny, do your best." But it's hard when you don't see success. And then I remember that show. It was a local show here in Charlotte, very well run, by the way, but it wasn't very big. And it was pretty clear that I was like the leanest person there. And I remember
Uh-huh.
Mike, because he was down here and he was backstage, and he's like, dude, you're gonna crush it. Like it had the striated glutes and stuff, which I bet
Yeah.
you didn't predict you were gonna be talking about striated glutes on this podcast today. But as soon as I walked out there, and so I competed in physique and bodybuilding in the
Okay.
same day. Like as soon as you walk out there and they put you in the middle, you're just like, oh, okay, that's a good sign. And I'd never had that before. So it's like then you
Mm.
get that success, and you're like, oh, this is what it's supposed to be like. So it was
Yeah.
a little bit different, once you get that taste of
Yeah.
success, and you're like, yeah, that's awesome.
Well, I find it interesting for you to share that you kind of were lacking clarity, purpose, direction, and the way forward was actually a return for you, a return to what originally stoked that fire, your fundamentals, one of your first loves. And the reason I point that out is like similar for me. You know how much I love training. Yeah, I've got the bodybuilding background, the competitive powerlifting background. I spent the last year and a half, 2 years really golf focused in my training, and I've fallen in love with the game of golf. But the last 6 months, I have just had one injury after the next. And as you know, that's frustrating to say the least. And what's
Right.
gained me that clarity and reinvigorated me is getting back to hypertrophy bodybuilding
Oh,
training. Like I'm like a
yeah.
new man in the gym
Yeah.
again. And it's something I really have reflected on, is how powerful it is to return to the fundamentals. And that's why, and I'm curious your take here, like I love journaling because it's a way to tell a story about what's gone on in my life. But I think one of the underutilized forms of journaling is going back and reading old entries. What the hell was going on 2-3 years ago when life seemed to be easy or clicking on all cylinders? And what can I learn from that to reconnect with in the present moment?
It's really interesting you say that, because somehow the first thing that popped in my head was, going back in time and looking at stuff. And not too long ago, I was back home where I grew up. I grew up in like middle of nowhere, Michigan, real small town, like 2,000 people, something like that.
Oh,
But
that's like my high school.
yeah. I had 100 people in my graduating class, my senior year. And, I've got still some stuff from high school. And it's funny because I was very driven then. I was very goal
Hmm.
focused. Like, would record all of like my running workouts because I was trying to set a school
Uh,
record. And so I had
okay.
all these numbers written down and kind of like what I needed to do to get there. A long story short, I actually never set either of the school records. It was less than a second off of both of them. Yeah, a little chip on the shoulder there forever. But that's what I go to. But it's like, all right, so what does that maybe, you know, tell me? Well, I kind of always had this drive to want to be like more.
Hmm.
And there's two ways to view that, because you can view it as a positive, right? Like, you can watch Michael Jordan, The Last Dance, you can be like, "That's awesome. Like, that's how
Fuck
you
yeah.
do great things." Yeah. And anyone listening to this podcast gets it.
Yeah.
They get it. What happens when someone doesn't get it, though, and they see it as, like, quote, unquote, "the dark side" that you were saying earlier? And it's
Yeah.
just like, well, they're they're just not your people. They're just
Yeah.
not your people. I'm sorry, but, like, you square peg, round hole. And some people
Hmm.
get it. And now again, people go through different stages in their life, and sometimes people change. And hey, all respect for that. But to me, it's like, well, if you do change and you go from someone that like was a high achiever to like now you're not, well, don't go and criticize people that do want to chase it and go after it. Like, that's not fair. That's not cool. It's like,
Yeah.
just own it that like you don't want to do it anymore. And people go apart. That's totally fine. Goals start to
Yeah.
diverge, whatever.
Hmm.
But like, don't then turn around for something that like maybe you did or didn't have here, and then all of a sudden use it as a bad thing. It's like, don't, come on, don't do that. Like, let those people, because those are the people that go and do great things and help tons of people out there in the world.
Hmm.
Like, we should celebrate those people.
Agreed. And I think that the character that you're describing, unfortunately, doesn't have that awareness. They don't have the rational thinking ability because they have started to come up with excuses, probably worn the label of victim or had that victim mentality as a result. So, yeah, they're just digging their own grave. And the only way
Yeah.
they feel valid or worthy or present is to criticize other people.
Um, I'm a part of Visage, and I think it was this last month. So we're about mid-month. Normally, it's like the first Wednesday of every month that I go. Um, One of the things was, what kind of annoys you the most? And mine's a very easy, direct answer. It's just like victim mindset, victim
Mm.
mentality. Because like, it's a disease if you really lean into it, and it's just like there's no way around it. Because if you have victim mentality, you can view
Yeah.
any single thing as just like, oh nope, I have nothing to do with it. Oh, poor old me, like the world's out to get me, and you're just like,
Yeah.
okay, all right, sure,
Yeah.
whatever. I just it's so, it's tricky being a parent, 'cause sometimes you see little glimpses of that in your kids, and you're like, "Oh, let's not go down that road. There's always something that you can do." I'm like, "Let's talk about it." It may not be
Yeah.
obviously what you could do, but like, you're not powerless. There's always something you can
Yeah.
do.
How do you navigate that conversation? Selfishly asking, I've got an 18-month-old, you've got, 14 and 12, because I understand that too. Sometimes I look at my son, I'm like, bro, like you got this. You don't need to whine. Like, come on, take a breath, be patient. Obviously, 18
Uh,
months is much different than 14,
yeah.
but what have you learned or what has worked for you, I should say, in communicating some of these high performing principles and characteristics into your children?
Yeah, it's a tricky one for sure. It's
Huh?
tough. Yeah, because like, what you've done in your life that was good and sort of gave you success. And it's obvious, like, it's very easy as a parent to be like, well, kind of, hey, maybe model this a little bit because it
Mhm.
did all this great stuff for me. So one, it's like, doing your best to lead with empathy.
Mm,
and not just,
yeah.
go in with like, oh, hey, here's the answer. Like, well, listen, if you're a parent, like you guarantee you've done this before. Because again, why? Because you have that wisdom and knowledge, even you've lived in the world way longer. So
Yeah.
that's one of them. And then, and this one's always an interesting one. It's just like you got to be okay with like your kids aren't going to take the same path as you. And like
Mm,
obviously you want them to because well, why wouldn't you? And so like it's great when I see like a professional athlete and their son or daughter becomes a professional athlete and follows them and models them. I'm like that's so awesome, that's so great.
yeah.
But at the same time, like that's not the usual, right? Like that's
Yeah.
I would say that's the very small minority. She's got to be okay with that. And then you're like, hey, well, let's just maybe use some of these principles
Mm,
that successful people use in general. And hey, like whatever you want to be good at, like just apply some of those and go do what you want to do and try to do your best.
yeah. I
Easier said
agree.
than done. Easier said than done, of course.
Which makes it that much more important to take care of yourself. So you are grounded and able to be present, lead with empathy, lead with patience. And I think I see that all the time where, parents neglect themselves at the expense of their parents or whatever other to do there is. And although they're well intended, at the end of the day, they get a half-assed version of themselves for their kids. And then that doesn't actually help them accomplish the goal of being the best parent they want to be to them.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously I come from a fitness background, so like
Yeah.
I've it's weird because I've just never had that perspective. Of
Yeah.
just like it's just kind of part of what I do and who I am. So like I'm always going to take care of my health to a pretty decent degree. Uh, And yeah, because again, even sometimes you'll be around other business owners and they don't have that.
Hmm.
It's always like the number one thing that I want to say, but it's weird because you can't really say that because then you're obviously rude if you like bring it up. You're like,
Yeah.
hey, Johnny, or maybe, you want to work on fitness. You can't say that, obviously. But it is. It's just like, do you know how much better you'd probably feel and probably think a lot more clearly if you just were in better shape and you did exercise
Yeah.
and because you and I know it, right? We've lived it and coached people and done all
Hmm.
that. Like, do you know how much better you'll feel and think like when you're, relatively
Yeah.
lean and healthy and active? Like it's night and day. I just don't think people
Yeah.
kind of have that. They don't know any better, right? Like sometimes you just don't know what you
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. Can people truly operate at their potential while neglecting themselves physically?
I mean, I'm sure you can do a lot of good things. I'm sure you can operate at a very high level. Maybe to your fullest extent, I would argue probably not, just because I think fitness has so many mental and physical benefits that you're probably missing out on
Yeah.
something. But you can, of course, right? And this goes back to like the trade-offs. Like imagine an alternate scenario in which I had those 3 options and, I didn't choose, one of the healthy ones, right? Or I
Hmm.
didn't choose focusing on health. Like, who knows? I could have leaned more into like, you know, being a parent and running the business, and I could have
Hmm.
neglected my health, but I don't think that would have been the answer. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you see it all the time. There's all sorts of people that have done really crazy things, have been successful and made tons and tons of money or whatever, and who knows, solved all sorts of problems. And they're not in great shape. So, like, you could do it, but who knows?
I have an imagination there's an invisible cost, or not even an imagination. I know there is. I've seen it, I've experienced it in the
Yeah.
clients I work with. And like, I love that you said it's like great physical fitness is like mentally and physically geared. Like for me, if someone listening right now, like if you are so fascinated with mindset and you want to strengthen your mindset, develop a growth mindset,
Yeah.
develop resiliency, like, and maybe mindset coaching isn't for you, can't afford it, go hire a fucking personal trainer or download
Yeah.
the RP app because
Yeah.
fitness, in my opinion, is a gateway to mental toughness. It is what allows you to reach your potential.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you're preaching to the choir here, but
Yeah.
imagine pushing yourself, most days of the week to do something that's challenging. And like, not only
Yeah.
do you get the physical and mental rewards of it, but yeah, well, the physical rewards, I say, but yeah, the mental aspect of, hey, look at these
Yeah.
hard things that I can do. You're just building tons of evidence that you can do hard
Yeah.
things and you can kind of like start to push
Yes.
yourself and challenge yourself in all sorts of different ways. Yeah, man, obviously, I'm so biased when it comes to this that it seems like a no brainer, but I guess it would be really interesting for me to just go talk with people that like don't give a crap about fitness and just like try to understand their perspective because I would it would take a while for me to even kind of start to grasp it. Cause I'd be like, whoa, 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 like, wait. I get all that, but at the same time, like you don't realize this whole other space over here exists. Like you
Yeah.
could feel so much better and think so much better if you did. Be interesting, man.
Fear, I think, would be the number one reason or objection as to why people don't. Fear of being judged, embarrassed, standing out, failure. I can tell you too, and a lot of the clients I work with in the golf space and other athletes too, like the reason they don't put forth their effort on the physical side, I'm mainly talking to some of my poker players and golfers, is they don't view themselves as athletic. They have a
Mm,
story in their mind. I'm
mm,
not an athlete, even though golf and poker can be seen as athletic endeavors. So therefore, they don't adapt the belief or the identity as an athlete,
mm,
which means the trickle down effect is they don't have any of the behaviors of an athlete. Like
yeah.
golf is obviously much more physical than poker, but I have tons of golfing clients who have immense resistance to working out. And I'm like, if you truly want to be the best golfer you can be, you've got to fucking work out.
Oh yeah, hands down. That's so
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I guess I wouldn't.
Hmm.
Fitness is who I
It's your
am.
middle name.
I literally, I might as well change my name. You're right, man. Which is funny too, because I would say, and again, knowing what I do, obviously, like, it's so biased, right? I'm so over here on as terms of the outliers, but it's just like you don't have to be an athlete to be an. I'm sorry, you don't have to be an athlete to like go and work out. Like that's not
Yeah.
what it takes. You can literally do. You start where you're at.
Yeah.
That's it. But again, if you don't have that belief, dude, that's really, really interesting. Glad that you said that.
Yeah. I'm going to say one more thing. We won't get too far down this rabbit hole, but I also believe like too many people have outsourced their definitions of healthy, sexy, confident success. So by letting society dictate strong, they think they have to be benching 400 pounds, competitive power lifter mentality. And that might be the complete opposite of their persona and how they even want to approach fitness. And unfortunately, because they let somebody else dictate what
Yeah.
success is or what strength is, they never get started.
You can walk and just that's all you need to get started. And in
Yeah.
terms of the weight training, like 30 to 60 minutes a week, you could knock
Yeah.
out 2 30-minute workouts where you're just supersetting stuff back to back and have, you'd be in a much better spot, right? So imagine
Yeah.
that curve that if you go from 0 just like a little bit is
Uh-huh.
really steep. And then
Yeah.
obviously it starts to level off and you get 3, 4, 5, 6 times a week. Obviously, there's some trade-offs there, but, like, to go from 0 to just an hour a week of, like, weight training, holy shit, you're
Huge.
fundamentally different, yeah.
Yeah. So next question, you can't use diet or exercise as an answer because we know they're staples for you. Like I'm curious, are there any, let's call them invisible habits or routines that most people don't see that you have that allow you to have or allow you rather to show up and be the best version of you every day?
I would say I've put a lot of work in being this goes back to, like, the self-awareness thing, trying to I guess, in, like, the business side was really interesting because especially all of the work that we do is remote,
Hmm.
really trying to get everyone's perspective before you make judgment, and I feel like
Hmm.
that does come from self-awareness over time. Because how like, someone tells you something,
Hmm.
like, "Hey, such and such happened." Like, "Oh, okay." You kind of follow what they say. And so what I've realized is, especially if there's 2 people involved, like, "Okay, got it. Thank you for the information.
Yeah.
I need to go get the other person's perspective to
Hmm.
then kind of balance it out and be like, 'Oh, what really happened here?'" Because,
Yeah.
usually the perspectives are, like, way over here and way over here, and you're like,
Yep.
"Okay, usually the truth is somewhere in the middle. Huh, okay."
Yeah.
'Cause if you just go with the one perspective, like, you're so biased that you can't really make an accurate judgment until you get, both sides of the story. I don't know how much of that
So
is a habit, but it's just like, I don't know, being aware of it over time, and, maybe the habit, is pattern recognition.
yeah. Well said there. So I'm curious. Like I've seen it's from I had a 5 year stint as more of an insider's perspective as a coach with RP for a long time. But just taking a big step back now, I've seen multiple iterations and evolutions. I mean, we talk about you and Mike individually sending out templates one by one. I can't fathom how many a day at one point to now you've got automation, you've got AI, you've got apps, you were the sponsor for the CrossFit games. What was the most challenging chapter of your journey so far? And what do you contribute to being the biggest source of impact getting through it?
There's so many different levels to, like, the challenge, it's hard to say which one was, like, the biggest one because I feel like they're all just what's the old saying like any problem you solve just leads to more problems. And so you're just kind of picking problems that you want to solve. And so I feel like it's at different levels, there's just different problems to solve. Not that one's necessarily harder or easier than one
Mm,
another, because it's like you can make another listen, you can make arguments one way. I'm going to try to make the arguments for both sides. So in the
yeah.
early days, it was just like everything is manual work that you're doing to try to like get
Hmm.
things off the ground and to become successful. Well, like you could argue in terms of actual like work performed, that's much harder than,
Mm,
what I do now. Cause like in terms of actual work, like I don't, you know, do that like much in day to day sense. But it's all sort of strategy, tactical, dealing with people, leadership, and all that. You could make a very easy argument that's actually a lot harder because now you're dealing with way more people. You have so many more different perspectives. Communication becomes such a big hurdle. Like when it's just you, it's like it's just you. And so, well, I'm a pretty driven person, so I'm gonna bet on myself and I can do lots
mhm.
of stuff. Like I feel very comfortable with that. But then you start interacting and working and managing and trying to lead people, it's wildly different. So it's hard for me to say like which one's the toughest because they're just so different.
Mm.
I don't have a good answer there, I suppose.
Well, from listening to you, it seems like the leadership, communication, team building probably didn't come as naturally as you just
Mm,
having this innate drive and work ethic. So I
yeah,
imagine perhaps maybe you had more
yeah.
opportunity for learning and growth in that department.
100%. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Even growing up like in college, I did like an internship where I was more or less kind of yeah, I painted houses and stuff, but I wasn't that the proper way to do it would I just go and hire a bunch of crews. But
Mm,
I was still involved, like, I still helped do all the work myself. So you're absolutely right.
okay. Yeah.
Early RP, like, yes, I was involved in everything. I was doing everything. And then to
Yeah.
kinda, like, give that up in some respect, was very hard because it would not come
Yeah.
very naturally to me. I would just be like, "Oh, just, like, let me go work," right? It's bodybuilding, right? It's like
Yeah.
the hard like, it just takes work. Like, it usually, for the most part, it's just like, how much work can
Yeah.
you do? And the more work you can do, usually the better. Obviously, there's some nuance there, but, I'm just speaking in
Yeah.
generalities here.
Absolutely. So I'm curious then, success has continued to come, as has growth, challenge. Has there ever been a season where externally everything looked great, but internally you were lacking that peace, that fulfillment or alignment?
I will say that anytime there are periods of success, it's easy to overlook things,
Hmm.
and I feel like you might even see something, and you're like, "Oh, I don't know, man, I don't feel great about that." Like, that's I don't know, like, that person's maybe not pulling their weight or whatever. But when times are good and, just everything's good, no you just don't get very many complaints when everything's good.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, that's probably the time when you really gotta evaluate stuff because, everything ebbs and flows. And
Yeah.
so usually after a period of a lot of success, you're gonna have a period of really hard times.
Hmm.
And again, pattern recognition. As soon as the hard time hits, some of those things that you might have overlooked before, oh, you gonna bet that they're gonna come up when things get a little bit tougher. And so it's like usually those areas of the downturns require a lot more clarity
Hmm.
and whatever accountability to then usually allows hopefully the next level or the next rise up. And then, you got to do your best to be self aware because on that rise up, you better be sure as shit doing the same things you were doing down here when things weren't good. Again, it's easier
Yeah.
said than done, though. It's
Yeah.
easier said than done.
So through this journey of just, it seems like constant reflection, strengthening your self awareness is always on the forefront of, your awareness. What have you had to work on unlearning or letting go of as you've taken on more of a leadership role the last, 5, 10 years?
Yeah, you don't have to do everything. You have to be able to delegate it.
Mm,
And not only that, but you have to be like sort of clear as to what the expectations are. So I would say it's letting go and then just being good at communication, especially
mm.
being remote. Because here's, I guess, even just having this conversation today with some colleagues, it's like because we don't work remote, you got to be real careful because like if there's some tiny little issue and you work in the next cubicle to someone, you just pop over 30 seconds and go, hey, Jimmy, this report, hey, can you do it this way next time? And it's like, boom, solved. No big deal. But it's almost like when you work remote. to like bring something up little like that, you whatever, you could send a Slack message or a quick email or something, and that's probably all right. But it's almost like to set up a meeting or set up a call about something makes it a bigger deal. And so then maybe more
Yeah.
people are like less likely to do that. And then what happens, right? These little things become bigger things, which become bigger things,
Mm,
which become bigger things. Before you know it, you're having to deal with this, huge, huge thing. So, those are probably two big things that it's trying to unlearn and trying to unpack all that all the time.
yeah. So when life gets chaotic, or as we joked before recording, life is lifing. We both know there's no shortage of challenges. And actually, a quote
Right.
comes to mind. I just read. I wrote it down. Excellence is the capacity to endure hard things. Seems very fitting.
Yeah.
What do you do to stay grounded when you're feeling emotionally overwhelmed or life begins to get more chaotic than usual?
Two things. Fitness is obviously a huge one of them.
Hmm.
And it seems so easy to me, but imagine if you weren't into fitness and didn't have that, you wouldn't even know that existed to kind of,
Hmm.
ground yourself, center yourself, and I don't know, hopefully just, bring you back from the edge where, like, hey, maybe you are kind of really riled up or really, just too many thoughts racing. Like then you work out. You kind of, because when you're working out, you generally have to be more mindful, right? You have to pay attention to your reps, the form, technique, and all that. It just kind of gets your mind away from that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's a really good one. And then obviously just others being around, good people that get you and
Mm,
understand you and actually bring you joy and root for you, which is an interesting one, right? Like they actually want to see you
mm,
do well.
yeah. How have you approached, like, I always come back to, you either have to edit or eliminate relationships the further you go. If
Yeah.
you are someone who is driven to get to the next level, not everybody with you now is supposed to be at that next level.
Right.
Have you had to edit or eliminate relationships?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
thing. It's people have different goals at different times, and just
Hmm.
it's again, it's hey, no harm, no foul. It exists, but yeah, you just want people that are on your team and want to see you do well. We'll think
Yeah.
win-win, not win-lose.
Agree. I still can like vividly remember having to call who was a friend during my grad school times and for years after, just tell him like, I don't have the bandwidth to maintain this friendship. Like, in more or less, I was like, you're really needy and you are not aligned with me being me or the direction I want to go, and I can't do this anymore. And I felt like that like gutted me in the moment. Yet, 24 hours later, it gave me so much a lightness and peace.
It's really interesting about that is, a lot of my friends from high school like weren't into fitness for a really long time, and so yeah, I kind of like fell out of touch. Not like completely.
Yeah.
Like obviously,
Hmm.
you still got some common interests, and the occasional text will come up about how the old sports teams are doing or whatnot,
Of
which is
course.
cool, right? Um,
By the
but
way, it only took you 6 minutes to mention Michigan. I was hoping at least we'd get past 10
yeah,
minutes, but I made a note to look at the clock.
I'm trying to think what do I have behind me? Nothing immediate. Well, that's not technically true. Right down here is some Michigan stuff. Yeah, don't worry, I got plenty of Michigan stuff all over everywhere. Um, Now that they've gotten older, I've had quite a few friends from high school kind of get back in or start getting into fitness.
Hmm.
That's been really cool because again, it sort of goes back like obviously always been a big part of my life, but
Yeah.
seeing other people start to get into it, really, really cool. They'll reach out to me, they'll ask questions. They've probably seen some of the RP YouTube content. They're fans of Dr. Mike, and I'm like, that's awesome. I couldn't be
Yeah.
happier. So that's really cool to see. But it's sort of that shared bonding over fitness.
Yeah, I love that. So you've got a lot going on. Like, RP is like an umbrella to so many things. You've got the YouTube channel, you've got the apps, you've got the coaching, and then it's underneath all. You have to oversee so much of it. Then you've got these two wonderful children. Like, walk us through, what is your process like to prioritizing, gaining clarity on those priorities, and managing both time, energy, and self care throughout the day and throughout the week?
Yeah, I think it's trying to like compartmentalize a little bit.
Hmm.
Again, all these things are easier said than done. So it's not like I'm just
Hmm.
sitting here and be like, oh, this is what you need to do. And it's like, no, no, no. Am I perfect at any of these? No. And I don't think, anyone's really perfect in too many things. But I would say generally speaking, I try to prioritize my day into some different chunks. Like
Hmm.
traditionally it's always been, wake up, get my kids ready for school, take them to school. Cool. Then I come home. I generally don't schedule work stuff for like call it late morning. So
Okay.
that like 9 to 11 time frame is usually that's what I'm training almost always.
Okay.
I usually don't schedule meetings, I don't schedule appointments. Uh, Now again, we're remote, so we've got a lot of people that are behind me time zone. So the West
Mm.
Coast, I'm over here on the East Coast in North Carolina. So that generally works out quite well. And then let's
Yeah.
call it like, 11 to, I don't know, 3, 4, sometimes 5-ish. Usually when all the work calls, meetings, appointments, podcasts, etc. That's usually when I try to schedule all that stuff. And then, it's either time to pick up the kids or go to some sports practices or things like that. And, obviously you got your hands a little bit in different things. And so stuff will pop up and, you got
Huh.
to help put out fires and all that stuff. But I would say, generally speaking, that's how I try to do things. And
Huh.
to me, it's just like you just try to set priorities because it would be weird if I didn't. Right. And I'm sure anyone listening might relate to this, but let's say you don't prioritize fitness or working out earlier in the day. I get it. We all got best of intentions. You're like, I'm going to train at 5 today, 5 p.m. You got work shit, you got kid shit, you got whatever. And it pops up and it's like, what becomes the thing that gets kicked to the curb? But what becomes yourself.
Yeah.
And so, again, you might have people that they're like, oh, I can't go work out 9 to 11. Hey, I get that, right? It's just kind of
Hmm.
but for a lot of people, and I did try this for a long time, especially during COVID, I was like, hey, I'm just going to get up at 5 a.m. And I forced myself for the longest time to do that. Because again, I
Yeah.
wanted to push myself, I wanted to challenge myself. I read so much about it, and everyone's just like, this is what you got to do. And it's just part of it. Like, I hear all that. And I did it for the longest time, man. Like, probably straight up at least a year plus.
Hmm.
And I did all, I would meditate, I would journal, I would lift, I would do some cardio, like whatever it was. Like, I wanted to push myself, I wanted to challenge
Yeah.
myself. And then, like, one day I remember this is probably 2020, but like my family was here for Thanksgiving. So this was also during COVID and all that stuff. But so my family is here. Just like one day, I didn't get up early.
Yeah.
And like my momentum was crushed and I just couldn't do it anymore going forward. And I tried and I just
Mm.
was like, this is just too hard for me. And I just remember because then it was like, again, I'm trying to force a square peg into a round hole. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I just do much better if I just sleep in a little bit more. I'm not saying crazy sleep in, but instead of being up at, 4:59, let's say, because normally I would make it a minute before 5. Why? Because, well, whatever. It's just what you do, right? So, but then all of a sudden I'm like 6:30 or maybe even 7. And I'm like, I can generally stay up later. I can stay up to like 11. And it just worked a lot better for me.
Yeah.
And I just was like, and I get it. I get why people want to do that. And sometimes you have to. If you
Hmm.
have to, God bless your heart and soul for doing that. You're an amazing person. And I have so much
Well,
respect for you. But I'm telling you, like, I tried it, man. I really did.
mhm.
Listen, I got no shortage of discipline. It was too hard. It would have basically required all of my discipline and willpower to do that. And I'm like, why?
Yeah. So it's fascinating you say that, and funny enough, I am that 4:15 guy.
I love
That
it,
just
man.
works for me.
Respect for you,
Um,
man. I guess.
but I agree because I'm guilty. I fell victim. I got to get up. I got to cold plunge. I got to journal. I got to meditate. I got to move.
Yeah,
I got to do mobility. And then in my morning routine's 2 hours, and I'm
yeah,
too fucking exhausted to do the big needle movers in my
yeah,
business.
yeah,
And I love what you said. You said a couple times now, like the round peg in the square hole, or vice versa. Like if you're listening right now, you understand the benefit of self care. You understand the benefit of getting a head start on the day. But if you're just like Nick and like the 5 a.m. workout isn't for you, cool. Figure out what the priority is that's going to make you feel most productive and accomplished during the day. Tackle that first and then move on to the next item. It might be your workout, it might not be, and both
yeah.
are okay.
And again, maybe it's like you do something around your lunch hour. And like,
Yeah.
if you're just a normal person training for general fitness, you really only need probably 30 minutes. So it's like maybe you get up and again, whatever you do, kid stuff, family stuff, whatever it is, and then you do take those work calls. You do some deep work. You do whatever it is. Like, all right, cool, knock that out. I love it. Great, do it.
Yeah.
But then don't skip it because if you start pushing it at the end of the day, I can guarantee you're gonna really struggle with it because a lot of stuff's gonna come up, and it's the easiest thing to just be like, oh well, I got to go pick up little Sally, or oh, I got to put out this work fire.
Yeah.
Fitness is gonna be the first thing to go.
Yeah, and if you're listening to and you're picking up what Nick's throwing down, like just commit to one time and try it for 90 days and just observe. If you try the lunchtime and you only hit 45 workouts of those 90 days,
Yeah,
okay, time to go back to the drawing board. Like I just updated my morning routine. I was up at 4:15, I go to the gym at 5. Funny enough, it's how I met my girlfriend, so I love it. I won't trade it for the
yeah,
world, but now it's like I got big goals and priorities that
yeah.
I don't want to wait for. So I get up at 4:15, I open my laptop as the coffee brews and I work until about 6:45. It's uninterrupted time. I get the
Yeah.
most important needle movers done for the day. Then I walk my dog and then I go to the gym.
Yeah. Yeah,
Just
no, a lot of
works.
it is, experimental and, don't get locked
Yeah.
into yeah, because even in the book that I wrote back in 2020, I definitely mentioned, like, the 5 a.m. thing, and that's what I
Yeah.
was
Can
doing
you
at the
see
time.
it? Can you see it in my computer? It's there. There it is.
Oh, yeah, again,
Can you
yeah,
see it?
hell yeah. But I did make sure to call that out even back then, like, I was self-aware of it. I was like, the major thing is it's just like you are taking care of yourself. It doesn't really
Yes.
matter when, but it's just like when it makes sense for you. Now, again, a lot of
Hmm.
times, just from the habit, consistency, and routine aspect, you want it to kind of be at the same time. A lot of
Yeah.
people are going to find that way, way easier. But at the same time, it's like just don't try to force something that is so hard that you're making it harder than it needs to be.
Agreed. So going back to those early days, you're training people, some of these templates are starting to have success take off. Did you ever imagine you'd be where you are now? What RP looked like then compared to today?
Nope. Yep. Mike and I would be the first people to say that. Absolutely not. We thought we'd just be coaches, and we thought back in the day if we could make, if we could even crack six figures at all, we'd be the most successful, happy people in the world.
Yeah.
It's funny how success changes with success, I suppose. So it's an
Yeah.
interesting one.
Do you feel more success or do you feel success in general has brought you more peace or more responsibility?
Ah, man, that's a really interesting one. I'm super glad that you've asked it. I feel like the last approximately year or so, I've become much more happy with like, you know what, like finances are cool, but it's not the most important thing in the world. And I probably
Mm,
did think that at some degree, but just being around good people and people that support you and being able to do the things that you really like to do is probably my highest priority right now. Like
mm,
again, I have to coach my daughter's softball, which
yeah.
listen, I'm not saying I miss my calling, but I love that.
That's awesome.
It's great, man. And, people might see me as like, they look at me, right, coming from the bodybuilding background, like, oh, you're probably that like, really intense coach. That couldn't be further from the truth, man.
Mm,
I'm just like, here's my philosophy. And I've told this to people because there's a couple girls who've never played softball before. Right.
okay.
And this is 13 years. So you don't really expect that. But I'm just like, you know what? My goal is I'm going to make them think that they're Babe Ruth when they're going up to bat. Like I'm just going to pour so
Mm,
much, you can do it. You're awesome. You're great. Now, again, that's not to be like you don't practice, you don't put in the reps. Of course, you do all that stuff. But like,
yeah.
I'm certainly not going up there and being like, oh, this is such a big deal. Like, oh, hey, we really need you here. So like, no, like, go have fun. It's rec league, right? It's not even like travel or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it's just like, go have fun, and it's been a lot of fun, and, I used to coach my son's jujitsu, like, that was cool, that was always fun,
Yeah.
um, it's just, priorities change over time, man, and, don't get me wrong, like, being financially free is great and awesome, and I think that has so
Mhm.
much value for people, but, I would say absolutely the last, 6 to 9, 10, whatever, 11 months here, my perspective on that has changed a lot.
Mm. That in of itself, I think, embodies so much of wisdom because I echo that, especially in my younger years, which it seems like we're very aligned. Money was everything.
Yeah,
More
sure.
money, more. I mean, if you probably remember my coaching days, it was always a green light for more clients because
Dude,
more
always,
clients meant
man.
more money.
You were
But
a machine. You coached
yeah,
for what, years, right? You were just like you were always like the number one RP coach. Yeah.
thousands.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, I
Yeah.
get it, man. Yeah. Like circa 2015. I remember having so many clients that like again, this was where I had to be a little self-aware. It's just like, I kind of gotta say no because otherwise I'm just not doing a good enough job for people. Like you
Yeah.
you just and again, there weren't a whole lot of automations and all that stuff that there is now. So maybe nowadays, maybe you could, but there's a lot of manual work back then. So it's
I
tough.
like to pride myself. I had some good Gmail hacks and whatnot. I was as efficient as they come.
I listen, I don't doubt it. I didn't have those. It was just pure, like, push through, grind through, whatever. Um, but yeah, no, I'm you and Alex Harrison would probably be too, that if I sat
Yeah.
down, you guys would probably teach me, like, so much on how to what is it, like, text expander and all these things,
Oh,
like
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh.
That's hysterical. Do you have a coach, therapist, mentor, or anything outside of, Mike?
So Visage is one that I mentioned, so that
Yep.
does include some, like, one-on-one monthly coaching.
Okay.
Absolutely, man, I got, like, a counselor
Yeah.
that I go see,
Hmm.
yeah, I have one that, works with, like, my kids and stuff, so I'm always staying in touch with
Nice.
that. Um, I mean, in terms of like fitness, not per se, but do I lean on, Mike and Jared, who are two of like the smartest people? Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Like I don't compete and I haven't competed now for a handful of years. And it's funny. It's like my goal was to get the pro card. And I was blessed, fortunate enough that I got it the first time I competed on the national level. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm done. So I don't really have plans to go higher than that. So I was like, all right, I don't need to compete. I'll still train, still work my tail
Yeah.
off. Um, but like when I would get closer to a show, I would absolutely hire a coach,
Yeah.
like absolutely bring in the experts. But it's like, kind of with our apps too. It's like they kind of act like coaches. So yes
Yeah.
and no, I suppose.
Yeah. No, it's just always great to hear. Was there ever resistance or maybe ego getting in the way of you asking for help in any capacity, any domain of life?
I mean, I would be lying if I said no, never. I would say, here's the thing, right? Because you go back to like when things are successful, you're willing to overlook things. That's
Mm-hmm.
almost certainly some ego too, because you're like, oh, I don't need to
Yeah.
do this. I don't need to do this. Oh,
Yeah.
look at what we're doing. Yeah, that's all cool until it's not. And then you're like, oh shit, I should
Mm.
have been doing that all along. So yeah, I'd be lying if I said no, never. But I do think because I remember like early on, like going back to 2015, just being like, I don't know how to do some of these things. So
Mm.
who or what, like, how do I figure this out? And so a lot of
Yeah.
times there's like bringing in a consultant that had some specialty,
Yeah.
expertise in a specific area. So was never sort of shy on doing that.
Mm.
So
Okay.
hopefully that was, maybe some level of strength there. But
Yeah.
yeah, nowadays it's what there's a book called Who Not How. And I remember we
Yep.
were trying to figure out some marketing stuff. And yeah, well, all right. Well, so I think this is a really interesting story. So if you had asked me, I don't know, 5 years ago, hey, what is marketing? I would be, hey, social media, you post stuff, and then like, hey, people buy stuff, more or less,
Yeah.
right? And then it's like, yeah, that's kind of true, but you need all this other stuff. And so my thought process was, all right, so I need to learn a little bit more in-depth marketing myself
Okay.
because I know we need to hire someone to do this. But in order for me to hire that who, I need to know a little bit of the how. And so I learned a little bit myself and I tried to put the pieces together. So when I learn, I usually go, I'm like, give me the top 3 to 5 people in a specific space. Cool. I want to go read or
Mm.
watch a bunch of stuff by them. What are the common
Yeah.
themes that they're all saying? All right, cool. That's going to be where I start. That's like the pattern recognition part. And then
Yeah.
so that's kind of how I learn, how I process things. And then when I felt comfortable enough, I'm like, all right, cool. I get a little bit of the foundation here. Then I felt confident enough to be like, all right, if someone comes in and they're talking to me about marketing, I can kind of assess if they're just bullshitting me or not. Like, what?
Mm-hmm.
How does some of this really work? And so, yeah, now, now we've got a CMO who's, one of my favorite people in the world. And
Okay.
yeah, like I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't kind of put in some of that work. So it's a little bit of the who, not how, but you kind of had to know a little bit of the how before you could do the who.
I think that was really well said. It's making me reflect on some of the past hiring mistakes I made because just like unlike you, I didn't take the time to have like a baseline understanding, and I couldn't spot some of the red flags, cheesy
Well, let
salespeople.
let me clarify here. That's not without mistakes having been made in the past. So let me throw that in there. So maybe it was like make a bunch of mistakes to learn that you need to know a little bit about the how before you can do the who. So let me just jump that in there because yeah, there's plenty of mistakes in there too, for sure.
Totally fair, but they're the best learning lessons, and
Is
you sharing them helps me and everyone listening maybe avoid making similar
Yeah,
ones.
man. And that's the beauty about learning too. Just go and like read and
Yeah.
watch what a bunch of other people have done. And you can hopefully at least kind of see other mistakes and errors made and try your best not to let
Yeah.
them happen again. But
Yeah.
well, it's like when you go back to you were talking earlier about kids, like sometimes you can tell kids, you're like, hey, don't do this. And then like they just gotta go and kind of do it themselves. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is why you said not to do that. Okay. So there's a little bit of that sometimes.
Dude, I'm waiting for my son to touch the stove. I like a couple days in a row now. I'm like, bro, like hot, come on, man. Like, I don't want you to learn the hard way, but we're getting to that point.
He's gonna have to, man. He's gonna have to. Inevitably, he's gonna touch it. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, okay, all right, cool. Lesson. I won't ever do that
She's,
again."
yeah, right. You still a big reader?
Um, not as much as I should be. Not as much as I should be. And this is where, like, man, things ebb and flow a lot, and whatever people
Hmm.
call different seasons and all that.
Yeah,
Like, there was a period where several years where I just would never put down a book.
I know.
Much less so now. I know that I need to. Funny enough, like I like to play. Where you're not from, anyone that's from Michigan is gonna get this. Anyone not from Michigan. So I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? So I guess this is a way that I challenge my mind, though.
Okay.
I play euchre on my phone. If anyone knows the
Okay.
card game euchre, like,
I know
hey,
what euchre is.
respect. Okay, yeah, yeah. It's primarily like I think a Midwest of Michigan thing, though. So yeah, I do play that because it does require some thought. It requires a lot of thought
Hmm,
process, a lot of thinking. So
yeah.
it's not like I'm just sitting there. I mean, listen, I am guilty of, I'll be scrolling and watching reels and sending memes and all that to friends and having some laughs and all that. Definitely guilty of that. I need to do less of it. I should be reading more, but sometimes again, like sometimes you're trying to force it, and then sometimes like I've had periods where I'll stop reading for a little bit, and then all of a sudden something is in my mind I'm really like curious or interested in, and
Hmm.
then like I can't stop. I'm like I need
Yeah,
to consume everything about this because I just want to learn more and more and more.
I get that. So what's next professionally, RP world, and then even for you personally, the next, I don't know, 3, 5 years? What are you looking ahead to?
Probably continue to make our apps better. I know that's a little bit of
Okay.
like whatever. That's kind of a BS answer, but really it is right. When you got apps, it's always about the next update, making it better, adding cool features. How do you deliver more value to your consumers?
Hmm.
So that's probably that on the RP side. Personal side, I just hope to be really involved in my kids' lives, man. Just because they're at such
Mm,
a cool age now, where
yeah.
my son's a teenager. Um, it's gonna be cool to see them, really do some cool things. They're really good students. My son's, into jujitsu. He's kind of really, because before when he was younger, I think he just kind of did it because maybe he had some friends there or whatever. But like now he seems to really be, and he's a really smart kid. And so like I knew jujitsu would be good for him because he can kind
Yeah.
of, because you got to be able to think like a step or two ahead of people, and like he could do that. And so it's cool
Mm.
because he definitely took a couple years off through middle school because
Ah.
they go 9 to 4, and then he was doing some sports where he would do like cross country or track. You start at 4:15, you usually don't finish till like 6. And I was like, there's no way
Mm.
he can also do jujitsu. So he took a couple years
Yeah.
off. But watching him come back, man, he's picked things up really, really quick. It's really cool to
Mm.
see. He seems to be you know, he wanted to start going more often,
Mm.
which like, hey, that's awesome. I give him tons of credit for
Yeah.
that. And then, it's cool to see like my daughter playing sports and I think she had some challenges this season where she was kind of forced into a role that maybe she wasn't, like if you know anything about pitching, like if you're gonna be a pitcher, like it's all consuming. And so she was kind of
Mhm.
forced into that role a little bit and had a period where she struggled a little bit. And 'cause I'm trying not to be the one to be like, "Hey, like, maybe we should get you into lessons and we should do more and we should start to" like, she kinda came to me about it, and I was like,
Huh.
"Oh." Again, and I remember because my dad kinda forced me to hunt and fish when I was a kid, and so, like, those are the 2
Okay.
things that I like the least. So, again, that goes back to learning is like, well, what have I learned? You gotta let your kids kinda come to you with it, and so, like, my daughter
Mm.
coming to me asking to maybe start taking lessons or taking it a bit more serious, I was like,
Yeah. That's a huge win.
dude, I was like I made sure I was like, "Are you sure?" Because I was like, I'm not like, this is no pressure for me, like, whatever you don't wanna do, you don't wanna do it, I'm just we're cool, we're having fun, obviously, we like to win." It's really funny, though, because I can see, the competitiveness in my daughter, and
Mm.
it's like one of those things where you have to I would be a hypocrite because I'm a super competitive person. And I remember my 8th grade year, she's only in 6th grade, so she's really starting to come into that zone. But like I remember one time we lost a relay race, and this was in a meet,
Uh-huh.
and I like threw the baton afterwards, and we almost got disqualified from it. And the coach had to come up and be
Mm.
like, "Hey, you can't do that again." I'm so sorry. Obviously, still got a medal. And so like the first time I started to see that in my daughter, I was like, "Huh, okay, she's got that competitive drive." And I'm like, huh, okay. I would be a hypocrite if I told her not to have that. But I'm like, how do we properly channel it?
Mm.
Because, like, yeah, you're the pitcher. You can't be letting your emotions get to you because everyone kind of sees that. And then sometimes the other
Yeah.
team starts chanting and yelling and stuff. And that's just kind of part of the game. And so, like, how do you use that in the right, how do you funnel it correctly, I suppose? Because you can use
Yeah.
it for good or bad. And it can certainly be bad pretty quick if you let your emotions out, wear them on your sleeve in sporting events. Because listen, if you know what you're doing, you're going to use that to your advantage for the other team.
As I've listened to you the last hour, one of the biggest themes I've picked up on is there's such a focus on pausing.
Yeah.
reflecting, comes back to that self-awareness or the example you used with your daughter. Like you're seeing something, you're seeing pattern recognition. We come back to that, but your ability to patiently respond rather than emotionally react is absolutely one of your superpowers, whether you know it or not.
Well, it's really funny because that's what a lot of people, because you take a look around at all the people at RP, like, we've got so many smart people that,
Mm-hmm.
software engineers and, Mike is a brilliant mind himself. And it's just like, well, I'm not like, I mean, I'm probably a pretty smart person, but I'm not some like genius level IQ or anything. But it really is like I've kind of taken it like it's a little bit of a badge of honor that like my superpower is like that ability to remain calm, cool, and collected, calm, cool, and
Mm,
collected, calm, cool, and
yeah.
collected. So like, yeah, bad stuff happens at RP or there's like some issues. It's like, okay, well, let's not overreact.
Mm,
Let's think through it. Right? Because what happens if you overreact? We probably make dumb decisions. Then
mm-hmm.
you gotta, right? You're once you solve a problem, now you've created more problems. So it's like, let's think about all the problems that we're potentially creating here before we go and try to solve for this one little problem right here that's going to take, create 10 more problems. So it,
Yeah.
yeah, man. And that's just, there's a lot of just mistakes made, and just dealing and interacting with people and just, so it's just like a lot of that wisdom and a lot of it goes back to wisdom. And so like, why do you want to read and learn and all that stuff? Why do you want to listen to this podcast? Well, because hopefully you can take a bunch of experiences that you've had and all of your other guests have had, and like you'll hopefully have to make some of those same mistakes.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, selfishly, these interviews are so powerful for
Oh
me. Like I
yeah.
go back, I pour over the notes. It's
Oh
amazing. It's a
yeah.
win-win-win for everybody.
100%. No, absolutely. No, it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Tell us more. RP, the apps, where
Yeah.
can everybody listening go to learn more and to really subscribe them? Because I've used them personally for years. They're phenomenal.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
rpstrength.com is our website. You can find everything there. Renaissance Periodization on YouTube, or you just type in RP Strength. It's almost certainly going to come up. If you're into any type of fitness, you're going to love it. Who knows? If you listen to this, you probably heard of Dr. Mike before out there. YouTube channel is like literally into the billions of views now. So like pretty much everyone out there knows
Jeez.
who Dr. Mike is, which is crazy. I've been with
Yeah.
him before in public where like he literally can't even go to his own local grocery store without getting stopped. So it's interesting. Um, and again, he's also very recognizable, just like his shape and you know how he presents himself. But those are probably the two best spots. Myself on
Yeah.
Instagram, it's just at nick.shot at RP. That's you can, my personal one. Those are probably the top three spots. But man, thank you so
Awesome.
much for having me on. This is great. It's definitely some questions I had to think about there for a little bit on how
Yeah.
to answer.
That's the point. We're not here for surface level nonsense. So I appreciate the
Good man.
vulnerability.
Yeah,
Yeah. Let
yeah.
me get you out of here on this last one. For someone listening who feels stuck and they know they're capable of more, but for whatever reason, they feel trapped in cycles of inconsistency, overwhelm, self sabotage, what's the honest conversation they need to have with themselves to get out of their own way?
Try to find some people similar to you that you can talk to. I think that's why masterminds are so popular. That's why a group
Mm,
like EO, I was in EO before I was in Vistage,
yeah.
and someone's like, well, like, what do you learn in Vistage? And so I always give this example. I can sit there and I don't even have to process my own issues, like work related stuff. You just hear in a group of, let's say, 10 to 15 people who are all like, C suite level or business owners themselves. You hear the issues that they have. And now again, we're all in different stuff. Like people look at me like I've got a tail growing out of my head when I try to explain what I do for a living. Because we're talking, these people are in like manufacturing, they're in insurance, like all these different things, like quote unquote real businesses. And so when they hear what I do, they're just always so fascinated by it. Well, you just sit and you listen to other, personnel issues or just other issues that people have in general. And it doesn't have to be anything to do about your own stuff, but you listen to it and you listen to the suggestions being given, and you'd be a fool or silly not to take those and be like, how does this apply to me? Like, oh, well, I've had a
Yeah.
very similar issue before. What have I done? Or,
Yeah.
oh wow, this is what this person did. Could I do something similar to that? Or like, what can you pull from that? And you get 10, 15 different perspectives. Like you've just in the span of an hour, learn more than you probably could have in, months, if not years of trying to figure it out yourself. And so, yeah, I
Yeah.
get it. You feel stuck, but find some people that are similar to you. Like, let's say you're stuck at whatever, 500K a year for your business and you want to get up to the 7-figure range. All right, cool. There's lots of people like that. Go find some people that are trying to solve those same problems and listen to what they're doing. And I guarantee you can find some possible solutions.
Love that answer. I wholeheartedly echo it. That's why, and I talked about this in a previous episode, I joined the M19 Business Mastermind for that reason. Every month I'm sitting down with 7 strangers who are making 7, 8, 9 figures, and we're all sharing our challenges, offering potential solutions. And in that 1 hour or 90 minutes, I'm just like, my mind is blown. I have 15 different ideas and action steps to execute on to solve my problems.
About this, I'll ask you one last question in it though. So if you leave with 15 action items, how do you sort it down into like the one that you actually start to do?
I don't take action until the next day because I let it percolate. And then what I'll do is I'll intentionally prioritize. It's a good question. It took a couple times to figure it out. But in my journaling session that next day, what I'll do is I'll write them all down, and I'll already start to tell when I'm writing them down which one is and isn't really a priority.
Yeah. It's like, whenever people go to conferences, I always try to tell people, I'm like, listen to everything, make lots of notes, but even if you want to whittle it down, let's say you're listening to 3 to 5 different people. I'm like, just do one thing from each talk. Could you start doing more than that? Because everyone's going to come in, they got their fancy presentation that's got like the 7 to 10 things or whatever it is. And it's like, that's just too much, man. 3 to 5 speakers, now you're like 50 things to do. Like, no one could do that. I'm like, find one thing. And it doesn't even have to be anything major, right? Find one thing from each talk. And I'm like, try to do that.
Yeah. I love that. And the bonus question too is, what's the biggest needle mover? That'll give you the clarity on that answer too, whatever the one thing is.
Yeah. No, that's a great way to look at it for sure. Because you might be able to sort through, let's say you got 3 to 5 speakers, one thing each, that's 3 to 5 action items, then go, okay, what is actually the one from these that I can, realistically start to do and it's going to make a difference.
Yeah. Dude, you over-delivered. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me on, man. It's fantastic to be here. Thank you.
Wow. That flew by. What a phenomenal conversation. It is my hope that you found tremendous value and plenty of thought-provoking questions and actionable insights while listening to the conversation I shared with Nick. And everything Nick mentioned, from the RP website, the diet apps, the hypertrophy muscle building apps, and his book, Fit for Success, all links are in the show notes. If you don't have a fitness routine, you are holding yourself back from next level success. So check out the RP diet and hypertrophy training apps in the show notes below. And as always, my goal in every single one of these conversations is to help you get unstuck so you can lock in and level up. And as always, my ask is that you share this conversation with another successful person who's feeling stuck and needs to hear the messaging and insights shared. And for you specifically, if this conversation resonated with you, take that seriously. It usually means that part of you knows it's time for change. And if you're ready to get unstuck, drop the excuses, ditch the bullshit, and get out of your own way, private coaching may be exactly what you need to get out of your own way and unlock your next level. You can use the link in the show notes to apply to work with me. I look forward to hearing from you, and I'll catch you in the next episode.